Greetings of the day, everyone. I am privileged to welcome you all into the first children's edition of Orange City Literature Festival, organized by SGR Knowledge Foundation in association with GH Raison University, powered by Raisoni Groups of Institutions. The motive behind the fest is to explore the ways that should help students develop emotional intelligence. Exposing children to quality literature can contribute to the creation of responsible, successful, and caring individuals.
We all live in the world of imagination. The author we will have for this hour will be discussing her book, the plot of which is set in an imaginary town called Jhunu. How the kids create their own god and so many imaginations that we have gone through. Listening to the speaker of this session, Miss Savie Karnel, we will make you believe that miracles do happen. Let us dive into the session. The Nameless God, a story of friendship and understanding. The book was voted the most popular children's book on Amazon for 2021, and it was also shortlisted for Bangalore Literature Festival Book Prize. Our speaker can give us a better understanding about it. But before, let me introduce Savvy ma'am. Savvy Colonel grew up in the coastal town of Karwar on a diet of fish, mangoes, and books. When she was about 11, she decided to become a writer. On growing up, she worked as a journalist for the New Indian Express, Midday, and Talk magazine in Bangalore. She now keeps traveling all over the country, collecting stories. She wrote parts of Nameless God in Pune and most part amid the mountains of Dharmshala. So without wasting a minute, I would like to hand over the session to ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Orange City Literature Festival. It's a privilege to be at your first ever children's edition. And thank you, Oraida, and thank you, Sparsh, for introducing me. And I'm going to speak about my book, The Nameless God. Well, let me just begin with the characters. Okay. So let me first begin with my name. Well, growing up, there's always been a confusion with the pronunciation of my name. And I'm sure many of you have faced the same as well. Or at least you know somebody who has faced the same issue. Maybe a friend or a cousin or a sibling. Well, just with me, some call me Savvy, some call me Savie, some call me Savi. But all the time, I accept all of these variations as my name. Well, and the same goes to the characters of our book. Well, we have two friends here. One is Bachu and the other is Noor. So with Bachu, his father, he actually wanted to name him after the Bollywood star Amitabh Bachchan. Well, and like many people, his father did not know about the BH at the end of the name. Well, the story is set in the 90s. And as we know, 90s, we didn't have Google. So his father probably couldn't Google the name. It was just what he heard from people. And popularly, people call him Amitabh Bachchan, Amitabh Bachchan. And that's why Bachu's dad called him Amita, Amita, Amita. And this led to, his classmates used to tease him. They would say, "Oh, look at the Bachu has a girl's name. Amita is a girl's name." So he really did not like his name. He thought perhaps, his dad could have chosen a better name. The stars, like there was the Raj and Rahul were popular in in the 90s, and perhaps he wanted those names. And his mom lovingly called him Bachu. And she used to scream out loud. They grew up in a small town, so children ran around the fields. They went out on adventures. So whenever his mom used to have to call him, she called out Bachu in a very shrill voice. I'm not really making that voice. And that's how, it was popular. He was popular as Amita Bachu in school. And it led to a lot of bullying and teasing. But he had one good best friend, and he was Noor. But he said Noor also had a problem with his name. But that was not with the pronunciation, but that one had to do with spellings. Some of us have really long names, with complicated spellings. It takes some time to memorize them as kids. Well, Noor's name was Nooruddin. And he said that he always got confused with the number of O's and number of U's in the name. That was one of the common things that these friends shared. And they too became friends. Well, and the thing with these, both of them was, like many of us, they always waited for the last minute to prepare for their exams and their tests. So that one particular day, they knew that the results were going to be out. They would get their exam results. And when most of us do know how we are going to fare, though we pretended before our parents that, I have done very well and I'm going to score good marks. And after the marks come, we do say, I do not know what happened. I had, appeared well. But heart of hearts, we all know how we fare in exams, what we write. And that's exactly with our Noor and Bachu, they do know. And that's why a day prior to the results, Bachu thinks that, he has to pray to God for a holiday. Okay, so you say, if at all there's a holiday, suddenly you go to school and you realize that there is no classes, a holiday would mean that they will not get a result. So Noor comes up with a plan. That morning he prays to God that, God, please, let something unusual happen. Maybe a big man die or something happen and there's a holiday announced immediately. And then when they go to school, they have a small town. They have this, in the town square, they have a Ganesh Bhagwan's mandir and a dargah, both next to each other. And like in most of India, there's a culture where we pray to both the shrines, irrespective of our beliefs or irrespective of our faith and religion. We pray to God, both the gods. So in their town, there was this tradition that whenever you have exams, people used to pray at the Ganesh Bhagwan's mandir because they believed that he would help them remember, study well, remember their answers, and fare well. And some children also believe that Ganesh ji, he also maybe secretly changed the question papers if you pray well to him. Suppose it's there's a difficult question, he can miraculously make that easier. But nobody really admitted it. Teachers really do not want to admit it if it is the difficult papers they are set have suddenly become easy. So nobody really knew what happened. And whenever there were results to be announced, children went to Fakir Baba's dargah. Because they say hundreds of years ago, there was an old Baba there who used to give berries to children, wild berries. He loved children. But these days, children do not really bother about berries. All they want are marks. So they believe that they go and pray to Baba there and he will award them marks miraculously. So that was their belief. So they say that if you at all you are in Junu and you have to just look at both the shrines and looking at the number of uniforms at the particular shrine, you can make out which school has exams and which school is going to get results. So anyway, they go to school, but well, alas, as Noor tells that you need to be logical with your imagination as well. You just can't pray the moment you're stepping out of the house and hope that exams suddenly will be a holiday. It is like wishing that a mango suddenly falls from a tree and it becomes fruity. It takes time. So that is what Noor's explanation. Well, they get their results and they slowly walk back home. And on their way back, what you say, ask Noor, why do you think the gods do not answer our prayers? We did pray fervently. We did pray sincerely. Yet, neither the question paper changed for us and neither our results, we got some very good marks. And he says, well, they both come to conclusion. Perhaps they say that, the gods are partial. Perhaps the gods are, overworked. Imagine you sit in one place and there are hundreds of students coming to you with requests. Whose requests are you going to listen to? So difficult for the gods. So perhaps they have those favorite students, the toppers. They really know how to butter teachers, and maybe they know how to influence God also. Perhaps they are God's favorite children. Perhaps that's why they listen to them, and we come low on the priority list with too much of work. So we say, okay, fine. Then we need to find a God who does not have so much of workload. You see, we need to find someone who is relatively free and has time for us. Then they come up with options. They say, okay, if they come up with many gods, they say, no, no, no. There, maybe this one has few followers, but perhaps he has. But we need someone exclusively to us. So they come up with a plan to create their own god. So they run to the stream and they look at different kinds of stones, and they carry one smooth stone. And they usually play in an old fort. And there they know a secret room in the old fort. Well, and they go take the stone, place it, and they run to Bachu's dad's shop. They pick up some agarbattis and some vermilion and some green cloth, and they take all of these together and they kind of make their own god. And they both pray again. They say, "Well, God, you're new, so there's no too much of task, but one small thing. Well, see that we do not want to show our results to our parents. So they say they are going to scold us. And so somehow you manage to give us a holiday, please." They pray and they go. They go home, there's a weekend. And after there's a weekend, a Saturday, the Sunday, and then Monday they realize that their holiday has been declared suddenly. They really do not know the reason why the holiday has been declared. But the two boys are elated. They feel that their God has finally, heard their prayer. And over it is some God that they created. They feel good about it and they think they have to be grateful and thank God, and they run to thank. And where they go, um, they get caught in the middle of the town. There are some rumors, and they get caught in riots. Well, it's the 90s. The previous Sunday was December 6th that day, and the Babri Masjid has been demolished, and there are ensuing riots over throughout the country. And the children also get caught in one of the riots, and they get separated from each other. And well, and then you have to really know that whether you have to read further of what happens. Do you think that their nameless God that they created is going to save them? Is going to protect them in this chaos? And well, and there's another interesting two more characters. They meet a school friend called Seema. Well, Seema is an atheist, and Seema is the strongest among the two. And she helps them, she accompanies them to Noor is abducted, is kidnapped. She accompanies Bachu and tries to look for Noor, and there's a whole lot of adventure. Well, Noor and Bachu also, they are friendly with a dog, and that dog is a three-legged dog. And well, with him also, there's a problem with his name. Bachu had actually called him Kangaroo because being a three-legged dog, he keeps hopping around. But the whole town calls him Kangaroo. So, well, even Kangaroo is also a part of this adventure. So, well, to know more, then you have to read this book. Before that, let me read a short, a few short snippets from the book. This is the first chapter. And the first chapter is called Of Biryani and Dahi Vadas. I'm not an evil boy, but sometimes I can't help it. Like how I used to wet my bed until last year. I knew it was wrong, but I just couldn't help it. Sometimes I do bad things, even when I'm wide awake. Like today, I lit two agarbattis and circled them around the photographs of all the gods instead of waving them in zigzag lines, the way I usually do. I shut my eyes tight and prayed, Dear God, please let someone, a big man, die today. I don't really care who, but anyone whose death would give us a holiday will do. You know, when we go to school and the watchman tells us that a holiday has been declared, ah, can anything beat that feeling? Especially if it's a day when the test results are going to be announced and you know you are going to flunk. I can't express how big the is. The closest I got to that feeling was when I first met Noor, my best friend. He was the only person who didn't laugh at my name. He never has. I think it's because he has a problem with his name too. Nuruddin, that's his full name. He has a tough time recalling the spelling. Noor couldn't spell his name right. I always got confused about the number of O's and D's and where to put the U. My problem is not that I can't spell my name. In fact, it was my father who spelled it wrong. And now I'm stuck with it. Papa wanted to call me Amitabh, like the Bollywood hero, but he always thought the name was spelled Amita. He didn't know about the BH at the end. So I was named Amitabh. But, by the time Noor joined our class, it was already mid session. When our teacher, Miss Maggie, introduced him, everyone burst off laughing. Excuse me. I wasn't sure why. Actually, I wasn't even listening. I had my eyes on Noor, but I was thinking of something else. I do that a lot. I space out. When Miss is teaching, I look at her and nod. But in reality, I'm either taming a seven-hooded snake like Lord Krishna or flying on a magic carpet. But that day I was imagining how to turn all the bullies in my class into frogs so that the next time they tried to tease me, the only sound that came from their mouths would be croak, croak. No, croak, croak is what I read in books. It's probably the sound foreign frogs make. I have heard an Indian one once go, grrr, grrr. But that's a short part from the first chapter, a little part from the later chapter. Why did you do this? I asked Seema. Why did you save our nameless God? You don't believe in him. I don't, but you do. So I respect that. Isn't this how friendship is supposed to be? You may believe in or like different things, but you always respect and protect what your friends hold dear. Yes, like in our country, Noor chimes in. Abba says, India is like a rainbow, unique and beautiful. If you try to keep just one color and erase the others, the rainbow will disappear and lose all its charm. It sounds nice. True, Seema says, nodding. India is not just some land on a map. It is home for people of different faiths, cultures, beliefs, languages. We should live together in harmony and respect each other's differences. How boring it would be without such diversity. Well, and here's the book, The Nameless God. And I hope you'll all read it and enjoy it. And I would love to take any questions that you have.
Can totally relate to this, ma'am, with having such a unique name. Okay, for just to know about the journey more, I have some questions for you.
Yeah, Rita, thank you. I'll try to answer them.
Sure. Communal violence is something that children are not allowed to learn about. How did you thought about writing?
Well, most of us, as parents and teachers, we do think that, children should not know about communal violence. But do they really do not know about it? In today's society, children they know about what's happening around them. They do need newspapers, and plus with social media and everybody having a smartphone, children are exposed to things happening around us about differences, about communal issues, about polarization. And I felt that we as writers need to address this issue. We need to talk about the beautiful thing that we have in our society, which is living in harmony. For many years, we have lived together in harmony. And as children or even as adults, when we make friends, we make friendships going beyond religious barriers. And I think that is how majority of our country is. And I think we need to celebrate this beauty. And that for that, I have to talk about friendships that go beyond religious barriers. I had to talk about issues like communalization. And plus, I had to talk about issues which would help us, be united as a society. And I think I felt it was a need to talk about these things to our children. Because this book is nothing, nothing extraordinary. I would say it is about our lives. It is about how we majority of Indians live, how we hold our friendships dear. I felt that I had to write about it, and that's how I came up with this.
I do have a question, ma'am.
Yes, Vash?
Like, what was the biggest joy that you get from writing this book?
Well, I tell you, this book has given me, and as a writer, every book, I think, for every writer gives many joys. Well, and through it's been 1 year of publications, and there were many joys that came. So I'll begin with you. The first biggest joy, what I thought then, was when I got got a letter of interest from Westland. When my editor mailed me that this book interests her and she wants to read more of it. So I was very happy, elated, and I just didn't know. I just didn't speak for half an hour. I was just taking it in. But when the book came out, when the book came out, when I saw it in print, that was again another level of happiness. But I was telling you, the most I would say was when my readers wrote to me. And these readers are young children. They are about 10 and 12. So they wrote to me, and one child from Calcutta, she went all the way on Instagram. She didn't have an Instagram account. She went through a friend's account, and she, wrote me a letter on direct. She just sent me a direct message saying how she loved the book, how she could relate to it. So that was, I would say, that gave me the greatest joy. And then a parent contacted me saying that when there was a project in school, the child, they had to draw the cover of their favorite book. And the child drew the cover of the Nameless God. And the parent clicked a picture of it, of that project, and she sent to me. So that gave me a lot of joy. And another parent told me that their daughter, she actually went to the park with her friends, and she placed some stones and she made her own Nameless God. Somehow, this feeling of connecting to young readers, I would say that gave me a lot of happiness. That I could relate to some children, some readers whom I have never met. I'm sure it gives, and many other authors too find the same joy, I believe. Thank you. So I hope I've answered the questions, Sparsh.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
It seems like there are many happy moments associated with writing this book.
Yes, there are.
There are. Since we know you wrote this book in two different places, which was your favorite one, Dharamshala or Pune?
Oh, Casey, I thought about the question, but you guys from Nagpur are close to Pune. So I feel like saying I should say Pune, to be on the safer side. But well, like I said, Pune has its own charms. It's a beautiful city. The weather is pleasant. It's a nice city. It has its own charm. But the later part of the book I spent in Dharamshala. Well, I would say Dharamshala being in the mountains, where every house in the town has a view of the snow-clad Dholadar ranges. It is not a city as such. It is still not. So if you give me a choice, I would say anytime I would like to live in Dharamshala. But sorry, all Punekars, but I do love Pune as well.
One more question, ma'am.
Yes.
Like, what inspired you to write this book for children with such incidences?
Yeah. As I said before, it's mainly what I saw happening around us, wherein I noticed that even children in school are getting affected by hatred being spread around, and so I thought that I have to speak about the good things, about how we live in harmony. Well, I had this topic in mind, but the central theme of this book of creating their own God, well, that somehow comes from my own childhood. Well, I also grew up in a small town where, parental supervision was not very much. We ran around each other's houses and we played. So I once remember we as a few friends, we took in some old rags from our houses, put up some sticks and, created a small shed-like thing. And we somehow kept some sticks and plants and said that this is our God. And let us pray. And this is somehow something that I had done in my childhood. So that came in as an inspiration.
Totally went back to our childhood days. Okay, so lastly, what is your take on the relationship to faith and religion?
Well, faith and religion, I would say that, well, religion cannot stand alone. Religion is based on faith. Without faith, there is no religion. But faith, I said, each of us has our own faith, and that I believe does not require any religion. I feel that faith can stand all on its own, and each of us is free to choose our faith. Each of us has our moments of what we believe, what we feel comfortable in. I would say perhaps, yeah, that's the relation between faith and religion. I would say faith is important, is required. May it be in God, or maybe it may not be in God. You're free to believe in God or not believe in God. I think it's a personal choice. And I would say faith is much more required than religion. That's what I believe.
Totally agreeing to it, ma'am. Thank you so much. It was a great session with you.
Thank you, Raita. I really enjoyed talking to you both. And I hope, all your viewers and all the little ones, they enjoy the session as well. And thank you all for inviting me and the Nameless God to the first ever children's edition of the Orange City Literature Festival. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was a pleasure being part of this session. I am sure it will be a great pleasure to read this book also. Our audience can please get their copy of the books from the link provided in the description or visit any crossword store near their city. The session was supported by Red Panda Publication. You can get your copy from Red Panda website as well. A must-read book for a generation today. Wish you a happy reading, friends. I once again thank you and all the audience in front of their devices. Get ready for the quiz based on this session and visit www.oclfnagpur.com to participate in a quiz and win exciting gifts and prizes. A gigantic Orange City Literature Festival will be back in November 2022 in Nagpur, the city of oranges. Get ready for the physical fest in the coming winter, attending awesome sessions and interacting with your favorite author. Keep following us for the updates of the Festival of Words. Thank you all.
Thank you.
With this, I, Oraida Nawab,
I, Sparsh Gupta.
signing off for the day. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye-bye.